I mean, last time when we played Alabama, there's a lot of, we were mixing it up with the teams. Nothing against them, but, I think it just adds to a level of seriousness. I mean, especially when we're playing in a playoff, that, both teams are – I mean, we're trying to win a championship here. So I like the level of seriousness, and I think the Orange Bowl has hosted us well so far.
Show pound for pound anywhere you go. Yo, ain't no city in the world like this. And if you ask how I know, I got to plead the fifth.
All right, welcome into this afternoon live. That was Kate McNamara. Thanks to MGO Blue TV for the audio there, talking about how Miami is treating the Wolverines so far. Hump Day as we get ready to go here. You see them on the screen down below, Brandon Justice, and up top, Tanner Wooten, recruiting analyst and editor, as we guys are, sitting here some 50-some-odd hours until kickoff. I mean, let's go, huh?
Yeah, it's flown by, The whole Christmas thing last week was a little bit of a, preview of maybe what's to come, maybe open some gifts, hopefully no Cole. We'll see. But, yeah, it has definitely come quicker than imagined. Now, again, might I remind everyone who's watching, just as you fans have not experienced, we also, as media, have not experienced a playoff game for Michigan. So the environment of sitting around waiting for it to happen and not thinking about players sitting out and not thinking about things like that, because it's playoff football and it hasn't been a thing here before in this era, and it's exciting, and we're pretty nearby.
Yeah, it's awesome. You're right. It has flown by. Thinking it was, it's been almost a month since the Big Ten Championship. Been more than a month since the Ohio State game. So, and obviously we kept busy with early signing day, but now it's more so into the game and just fingers crossed. I'm white knuckling to Friday, man. No news is good news. We'll see. There's been a lot of rumors about certain safety for Michigan, so we'll see how it all plays out. But we're getting close, and I think the closer we get to game time without any negative news, the better, obviously. So I just want to get to it. Hopefully all four teams are at full strength so we get, to see who the best team is. It's been unfortunate to see bowl season kind of ravaged over the past week or so. It's my favorite time of year, truly, with all the games going on. And, I know we got some good matchups today, hopefully no last minute cancellations. So hopefully we'll get to watch some good football, but yeah, like Brandon, it's, I agree. It's new for us. And it's awesome. I mean, it truly is awesome to be in the highest spotlight of college football. So really looking forward to the game, and, we'll see what happens on Friday night.
Well, Tanner, let's talk about it. You pretty much covered all of that when it comes to the COVID issue, but it is top of mind for a lot of people as we sit here and wait for Friday. And, you talked about some of the rumors and some things that are being kicked around. Dax Hill's name, he was asked. In fact, Kate McNamara, who you heard there at the outset, he was asked about it just a little while ago. So, too, were Andrew Vastardis and Stuber. They were both asked, and they all said the same thing. That's a question for Jim Harbaugh. And, if Dax Hill didn't make the trip, maybe he could test out of this and somehow, get on the field for him. Maybe it was contact tracing. Maybe it was something where he had some symptoms and he could still test out of it. Maybe he's not going to play. So I think all of those things are on the table. But, it's something that, the tests are pending. I think everybody had to take one 72 hours before the game. So we're kind of, like you said, pins and needles. I don't know, Brandon, how do you look at it? I know it's for a lot of people, a touchy subject. You can steer off the road really quick and people start slamming their fists. But, I don't know if it's wishful thinking, hoping all both teams have a full complement of their rosters out there and will be available for them on New Year's Eve. How are you looking at it?
Yeah, I mean, hey, this just continues to be what we continue to call it. It's completely uncharted territory for us in media. These are things that we've never dealt with before as far as coverage goes. So making formal opinions on them would just be, in my opinion, kind of just like a farce. Like we truly don't know. We truly don't know. We don't know how this thing is going to continue to formulate and how it's going to continue to populate. No idea. But as far as the Dax Hill, like as an individual goes, I mean, he's extremely important to this defense and to this team. You can't say it any better. He's about as important as it gets behind Hutch and Jabo. I think those would probably be the only other two you'd be less I guess, upset losing in a game like this than Dax. And even still, I think Dax is on the same pedestal as those two, are near it, not Hutch, but near it, you know? And so with all that being said, I think it's just one of those things where from an analyst perspective, if we're trying to make a formulated opinion on it, it's one of those things where we truly don't know what's going to, you know, quote unquote happen, right? It's not like any of us have some sort of inside track on his test coverage or anything like that. But the one thing that is obvious is how important he is and how Michigan certainly needs him in this game. And if they don't have him, then who steps up? You know, who goes to that safety spot? That's the real question.
Yeah, and Tanner, to hit it right there with you, I mean, you know, maybe it's Rod Moore, maybe it's RJ Moten talking about the safeties behind, but you know, to Brandon's point, Dax Hill, at some point, if we were sitting around saying, hey, guys, so let's talk about the most important matchups, if, you know, we can go to Brock Bowers, the tight end, the freshman of the year in the SEC, and leads them in catches and yards and touchdowns, and say, okay, you know, he's going to be the first guy you're going to have to deal with. What's Michigan going to do? And I think, you know, Dax Hill was the guy that was in the game plan here. So, you know, Tanner, how do you approach that? I don't know. You think about from a coaching standpoint or a media standpoint, just looking at it, this is clearly one of the big matchups here, and not knowing if Michigan's going to have that chess piece. I mean, this obviously interferes with the game plan if that's going to be the case, but then again, you might have them.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you know, just looking, I have Georgia's schedule pulled up. You know, 6 out of their 13 games, Brock Bowers was the leading receiver for that team. So, you know, with a team that's got a lot of, you know, talent at the skill positions, I think Bowers is probably the best. And yeah, you're right. With Dax Hill, you know, being able to cover the tight end, right, is a big part of that. But also, you can't really edge Dax Hill. Just in the way in 2016 and 2015, you couldn't get to the edge with quick screens, bubble screens, right, swing passes with Jabril Peppers. You can't really do it with Dax Hill. And that's a big part of Michigan's defense, is allowing him to be able to kind of flow freely to be able to make the play either at or before the line of scrimmage. So that's a big part of Dax Hill's game. But you're right, RJ Moten and Rod Moore over the last month of the regular season became, I mean, I was – during the Big Ten Championship, when there was that targeting review, I was on, you know, pins and needles, right? Like, oh my gosh, they're going to lose him for the first half of the playoff game. You know, they're in control of this game. Thankfully, he was not ejected for targeting. But that just kind of shows you how far he has come as a true freshman to be able to maybe slide in to that Dax Hill role, right? And he's got a ton of experience now. So that's a big plus for Michigan, with or without Dax Hill, is the emergence of Rod Moore. And RJ Moten's been really solid all year for the most part. You know, he's had some big plays and big games. And I think obviously you've got Brad Hawkins, right? You've got the senior, the elder statesman, you know, I think fifth year senior, and has played a lot of football, right? So, you know, as far as the safeties go, you're going to be okay. But obviously Dax Hill is the most athletic, probably the most talented of the bunch. Obviously a 5-star for a reason back in the 2019 class. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. But, you know, we'll see. I mean, there's so many rumors right now that, oh, he's not playing. Oh, he's coming down. He's flying down today. Who knows what's going on? I mean, they're going to be so tight-lipped about it. They don't want to give Georgia any indication either way. We're probably not going to find out until warm-ups if Dax Hill makes the flight, or maybe some practice video. I don't know. But we're probably going to see on Friday if he made the trip or not.
Yeah, who knows? Different Wolverine fans taking the flight down to Miami, looking across at some guy wearing, hey, that guy looks like kind of like Dax Hill.
Get him on a PJ, please, in a bubble, okay? Just don't take any chances. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, Brandon, what else is top of mind here as we sit here and, you know, the game rapidly approaches? If you think Friday's rapidly approaching, to me it is. And what's top of mind with you as we close in?
I'm intrigued to see what Michigan offensively it comes out with, what their approach is. And I think it's kind of a, you know, two-tailed story, because what we've seen this year for Michigan is games like Penn State, where they face a really stout defense, and the creativity is not as frustrating as it was maybe a year ago or even beyond that. But the creativity against Penn State wasn't quite what it was against Ohio State, right? Well, Ohio State was a run it down your throat type of game, but there was still a lot of wrinkles in there, like the flea flicker with Cade McNamara, like the deep shot from Cade to Cornelius Johnson, the Statue of Liberty on the opening drive. I mean, there was a ton of creativity despite the style being primarily smash mouth. And what's interesting to me is about that is that if you look at that flea flicker play when Cade threw the ball to Sanders still, over into the boundary, what you noticed about that play was Michigan doing what it really hasn't done and I didn't do against Penn State, for example, and that is understand that if you play pace and you continue to, kind of clock that ball, hand the ball off, and trust your backs to get it, even though he's been very good at it, trust me. But they hit the gas for the first time in what seems like a long time in a rivalry setting, right? They didn't let a team hang around. They smashed Ohio State. They had an answer to every single counter that they had, and it was never ending. And you had not been able to say that about a Michigan team in the past in a game like that. You couldn't even say it in the case of Penn State. So I'm thinking about, Michigan playing stout defenses. Penn State's better than Ohio State. Georgia's better than both of theirs. So I'm interested to see how they come out. Are they going to play safe? Are they going to play to limit mistakes? We know that they do that each game, but they don't do that without lacking creativity, if that kind of makes sense, because in the past it's been much of the other. It's been far more playing safe and limiting creativity in the process. Whereas that Ohio State game was a pretty safe game plan for the most part. There was not a lot of risky throws. The Cornelius Johnson throw was a classic one-on-one to the goal line. The flea flicker, the design made that guy wide open. So, those kinds of things weren't so risky. The Statue of Liberty, it was a free runner, essentially, right? So I wonder what their approach is in this game. I wonder if it's going to be safe offensively. I wonder if it's going to be uber creative, because they've proven in games like Maryland, where Maryland's an inferior opponent by all means, but they've proven in settings like that they're capable of getting uber creative and not relying on simple smash mouth football. I was telling a friend the other day, the most misunderstood thing about Michigan football this year is that their offense is strictly smash mouth. They've opened, the playbook against Michigan State in a loss, yes, but arguably the offense's best game besides Ohio State, I would say, and Maryland, right? So they've shown an ability to get uber creative. I don't know if they're going to do it against Georgia. I don't know if that's the right thing to do against Georgia. I am just extremely curious and entirely unknowing about what that is going to look like in the game.
Yeah, Tanner, you know what? I think if I listen to one expert, I've listened to, 10 or the other way around, whatever it is. Like everybody talks about their defensive line. Everybody talks about their front seven. But at some point they say, the way to attack Georgia is through the air and to get into their secondary. And with the receivers, you mentioned Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, you go down the list a little bit here of some of the deep threats, that they have. And it feels like taking some shots. Andrew Anthony put him in there, whether it's the seam routes or whether it's these tight ends. I think, finding a way, and maybe you have to set up that with play action, but taking these deep shots and getting these playmakers the ball down the field seems like that's where you want to attack. That's where if the dogs have a weakness, there it is. So I'm expecting that. It's just how soon, are they going to start letting it fly?
Yeah, and I think the key emergence throughout the season was Donovan Edwards, right? I mean, the Maryland game was very productive, 10 catches, I think 180 yards and a touchdown through the air. So when I think about, Brandon, you mentioned that first touchdown Michigan scored against Ohio State. That was wide open to Edwards on the other side. Like that was an RPO. He probably would have scored on that play. If you look at kind of the all 22 film behind the line of scrimmage, if McNamara doesn't hand it off, he's got Edwards wide open, right? So I think the emergence of Donovan Edwards out of the backfield is huge. And I think I've heard that Donovan Edwards probably could have been a 5-star wide receiver, right? And you see, I mean, there was a play in the Ohio State game that was out of bounds, but it was a back shoulder throw to him on a third down that he caught, but he was out of bounds. I mean, obviously, it doesn't count, but just the ball skills that he has for a running back, I think you can take advantage of Georgia in the intermediate passing game with Donovan Edwards, right? And that's going to maybe open some other guys up, right? Henning, Sanders still, Wilson, Johnson, all Schoonmaker. I mean, it's crazy to think this is, I can't remember a time Michigan's had this many weapons in my lifetime, at least from having like cognizant memories of Michigan football. There's been quite a while, maybe 2003 with Edwards and Breston and some of those guys, Chris Perry, right? So I think you're right. I think Michigan, their identity is running the ball, right? But I don't think Josh Gaddis is going to get stuck in that. We've seen him take advantage of throwing the ball, right, against Michigan State, who's got a poor secondary. I mean, they move the ball through the air very well, and some mistakes and some missed opportunities cost Michigan that game. I don't think it was necessarily their offense. But if you look back to that point in the season, one thing I was thinking about too I was at that Nebraska game, right, middle of the season. How many times were they shuffling in interior offensive linemen? They were not healthy the middle part of the season. So you've seen them have the same 5 guys the last few games of the year, and they're mauling dudes, right? So, those are the best 5 to start the year. Zinner was dealing with an injury all year. Hopefully those guys are all healthy, good to go. I think you kind of see it, though. You see that progression. You see you don't have to bring in Filiaga and Barnhart, who are solid replacements, but you want to have that same 5 for that cohesion. So I think Michigan, the last few weeks of the year where they're putting up 59, 42, 42, I think that's who this team is, not necessarily the team in the middle of the year that maybe struggled a little bit or maybe was, keeping it close to the vest, right, against Indiana, Northwestern, right? So I'm curious to see how they come out. I mean, obviously Georgia's got a really solid, stout front, one of the best in the country. I mean, looking at their schedule, they didn't give up a lot of points until the Alabama game. So, but we have obviously seen you can score in this defense. So, and I think one last point that I'll make, I think Michigan needs to take advantage of tempo. I think you see Jordan Davis get very tired. I mean, he's probably 360 pounds. Michigan, you saw them do it against Ohio State, where they just said, you know what, Hassan Haskins probably scored to go up 14-10, and they called him down, and they just said, screw it, we'll line it up right over, right? So you've seen them utilize tempo. I think we'll probably see a little bit of that on Friday.
Michigan plays like they did against Ohio State, they're going to win this game on Friday. I feel pretty good about that. If there's something that concerns me, it's the Georgia running game. Bowers is good as a tight end, and, Pickens has come back, and he's been – more than serviceable for them. But, they're a team that wants to line up like Michigan, and they want to run the ball. And James Cook, Zamir White, I mean, those guys, they can make hay. And that's the one thing in that Michigan State game that we know what Kenneth Walker was able to do and how things broke down there. If Michigan's able to stop that run, I like Cade McNamara putting the ball in his hands and trying to make plays down the field more than whatever Stetson Bennett might be able to bring with his legs and his arm. I think that's an advantage Michigan when it comes down if you can line up the quarterbacks, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that as far as Stetson Bennett getting the job, I mean, I think that's good for Michigan. I think Daniels is probably going to have a little bit better of a game managerial ways about himself against a strong defense like Michigan's with a scheme that's pretty disguised. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the greatest film guru of all time, but it seems that Michigan's running a lot more disguises with their blitzes and with their coverages this year than they were with Don Brown in previous years. So I think from a quarterback standpoint, that's a big point about Cade McNamara. That's why people love Cade McNamara so much inside Schembechler Hall, is his ability to read these defenses. It's what's limited his mistakes. Again, I said it before, Michigan's been able to be safe this year without limiting their creativity, and a lot of that can be credited towards Cade McNamara. And for good reason. He's done a good job at leading that pack, leading that huddle, and then going out there and running that offense the way it needs to be ran. Sometimes it was boring. Looking back on it, it was pretty fun, I think, is what people would say nowadays, right? So as far as putting those two quarterbacks next to each other, I mean, I think Bennett's got the better arm talent, sure, and he's going to give you the higher ceiling for maybe explosive plays that are like a deep ball. But Cade McNamara has been the guy throwing some pretty explosive plays himself, whether it be a deep throw or not, right? I mean, Cornelius Johnson was a deep pass. The flea flicker that we mentioned before, not a very deep pass, but a pretty big play. Donovan Edwards against Maryland, right? Not the deepest pass, but he, letting his players make those big plays for him. So I'm interested to see how this, honestly, I really think that this game is so intriguing for many reasons. I don't think we're getting closer. I know, Dennis, we talked about this last week or whenever that was. I forgot what day it was by now. But we talked about the game and how the line, where it was as far as Vegas goes, and when to kind of look towards when that line was going to move or stay where it was, or what's its true line going to be, blah, blah, blah. It's still stuck around that 7.5 mark as far as I know. And it being at that 7.5 mark is starting to make me think, okay, it's not going towards Georgia. You're going to see early movement towards them at this point in time. So at the signal it's at right now, I'm not saying this is definitive, but the signal it's at right now makes me think that it might inch towards Michigan a little bit as these days approach. Not big, but we saw that with the Ohio State game. It went from 9.5 out to 10.5, 10.5 back to 9.5, 9.5 back to 10, and got all the way down to 6.5 by game day. So I'm intrigued to see what happens there, because the more we talk about this game, all of us, the more we talk about this game, the more it seems like Michigan's not as far mismatched as it's being portrayed to be by everyone that we've been watching over these past few weeks in the national media. And I'm not saying that they're discrediting Michigan. I think they've done a really good job at making sure Michigan's, getting the roses and all of that. And I have no problem saying Michigan is not going to win this game. That's totally fine. But I think it's so far away from being a foregone conclusion. I think Alabama beating the living hell out of Cincinnati is a foregone conclusion. But I don't think that's the game. I don't think this is the game that is the foregone conclusion that's being portrayed to be. I think Michigan matches up well offensively. And I think that the quarterbacks, Dennis, you make a good point. The quarterbacks are – what's the difference there, right? There's not a – C.J. Stroud was thought to be this far and away greater quarterback than Cade McNamara. He is, don't get me wrong. But how'd that game go? So if we're looking at pure quarterback play, and that's your biggest matchup in college football, who's quarterback versus quarterback is typically the most important factor in a college football game. Typically, I would say, more times than not. Trenches, absolutely, but quarterback, very important. So with that in mind, I'm starting to think like this game's a lot closer than it's being portrayed to be.
Look at you. The wheels are turning. We're watching you sharpen the edge, in real time. That was amazing, right there.
I like that.
Tanner, you know what? I think Michigan's going to win this game. So for whatever that's worth, and I think the point spread is too big, obviously, if I think Michigan is going to win outright. But, I understand why, George, I think Vegas looks at the history of the semifinal. I think they look at how SEC teams have done. I think they take Ohio State and put them over there and put these other teams in there. And they do look at those stats all year long. But, I think that number will probably come down. But I think Michigan's got a pretty good chance in this game because of all the things that we're talking about and really how they're playing right now.
Yeah, it's look, I grew up in Michigan. Been a Detroit sports fan my entire life. I don't know if I'm ready to say Michigan's going to win, but I think they have a damn good chance. And Brandon, watch it. My fiance is a Cincinnati alum, so I don't want her. She's at yoga right now, but if she watches this, she might get a little mad at you. But no, man, Michigan's bringing more respect than I thought they would. You've got guys at ESPN like Dan Orlovsky picking Michigan to win the national championship, which is bonkers. Coming from, he did the first game against Western Michigan, and I was at that game, and never would have thought that this would be the year. Look, we all kind of, I'm sure in one way or another, a lot of us kind of fell off the bandwagon a little bit, and it's like, I got to see something before I get my hopes up, right? And this team has continued to prove me and everyone else wrong the entire year, right? I mean, you're hopeful, but you don't want to get your hopes too high, right? And that's happened to Michigan fans for quite a while. So, for them to kind of prove everyone wrong, to exceed the expectations of 6-6, 7-5 that were laid on this team, it's everything's gravy at this point. I think we can probably all agree with that. But Dennis, the more I think about it, the more I like Michigan's chances. I don't know if I'm ready to say they're going to win. I don't gamble because I am indecisive and I can't figure out what to do. So that's why I don't gamble. So I'm not great at making predictions. But I do think the way Michigan's playing, the NFL talent that is on this roster, because I think there's a lot of it. And it's crazy because, they're extremely young. I mean, despite what Ohio State podcasts say, they're extremely young. And so the fact that they're here now is honestly mind-blowing to me. I mean, I've been 2 games this year. The one thing, so the clip you played of Cade McNamara earlier, that guy just loves crapping on previous Michigan teams. And he's 100% right. I mean, I was at the Nebraska game and obviously saw the post-game interview. Previous Michigan teams lose that game. Yeah, they probably lose 3 or 4 this year. But this team is different. It's so cliche, but it's so true. I mean, they just fight extremely hard. So, I don't know if I'm there yet, Dennis, to say Michigan's going to win this game outright, but I think it'll be a great game. I think Michigan's going to have a good game plan on both sides of the ball. I'm excited to see Mike Macdonald after 13 games under his belt as a defensive coordinator. You give him a month. What does he come up with? Like we don't know a lot about Mike Macdonald yet. I mean, we know he's great, right? We know he's very good in game. What does he look like with a month to prepare, right? You talk about giving Saban a month to prepare. You talk about giving Kirby Smart a month to prepare, who's a great defensive mind as well. What is Mike Macdonald going to do, right? I'm excited to see that play out.
Good stuff. We're here. Maize and Blue Review. You saw I was listing off some of the comments there. A lot of COVID stuff. We covered that. So if you had something you wanted to throw in there, you can. Let me go to the den here and fire a question at you, both of you. And it was a Michigan fan who just said, what part of the Georgia game is causing you the most concern? And the first response of the tight end Bowers, Georgia's probably the best team in America. And we got a crap draw, TD Favor is saying. So we know that we can't line up and move the line of scrimmage. So do we beat them throwing the ball when we know we need to throw it? That's some of the thoughts there. What
I wouldn't concede that.
Go ahead, Tanner.
Yeah, I wouldn't concede that. I think Michigan's played some really talented defensive fronts this year and been able to get some movement, right? And it's not always about lining up 5-on-5 and just pushing a guy 2 yards, right? I mean, Michigan utilizes pulling guards, tackles, and centers a lot, and you see it with the Baltimore influence, right, from Matt Weiss, the quarterback's coach. I really think Michigan can run the ball on Georgia. They're going to have to be creative. They're not going to just – I don't think they're going to manhandle them like they did Ohio State's front seven. But you never know. I didn't think Michigan was going to manhandle Ohio State heading into that game either. So, but I would concede that. I think Michigan can run the ball. I mean, I think they ran for 112 against Wisconsin. This defense is, as far as the run game goes, is probably as good as Wisconsin. But I'll tell you what, I think Michigan's run game is a hell of a lot better than it was in October. So I don't know if I would concede that Michigan's not going to be able to run the ball or put movement on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan has, pretty much won the trenches in almost all of its games this year. I don't think it hasn't won the trenches this year. And if it hasn't, even like the Michigan State loss, they didn't lose the trenches that game, I don't believe. I think that, Kenneth Walker was running against 9 dudes in the field a couple times, and, it worked out for them. And I think that was the difference, really. Like, if it all comes down to it, did Michigan State play really good offensively? Sure, but we won't go on that side of things. We'll stay in the realm of Michigan being good in the trenches, which is the point I'm trying to make at that commenter that Tanner just, identified, because I just disagree with that take like entirely. Michigan's like really strong in the trenches this year. It's like their strength, right? We talked about quarterback versus quarterback, Michigan versus Georgia, but and how important Cade McNamara is to keeping this offense together. But I mean, Cade McNamara will tell you as much as anyone will tell you that the Michigan's success offensively has been entirely contingent on how good their offensive line is, how good their offensive line play has been. Why do you think he's taking them out to dinner every week? Thanks to the NIL. I mean, thank God that the NIL or the NCAA kept their quarterbacks from taking their O-linemen out to dinner for all these years. What we have ever done. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is the trenches are strong. It's the strength of Michigan. So Michigan could lose this game by all means and still play well in the trenches and lose this game close. And you can't sit here and say it was going to come down to the trenches because before the game, I mean, hey, this game could happen and they could get absolutely dominated up front. I don't know. We don't know what's truly going to happen in this world. But as far as what should happen, I mean, Michigan's strength is its trenches. So I just disagree with that take. But everyone watches games diffdifferently, so no disrespect.
Well, I get what they're saying. I get what that person is saying, him or her. Don't want to assume anything. But I understand what they're saying, right? Like, Georgia's really damn good in the front seven. Like, Nakobe Dean, stud. Like, Jordan Davis, I know I talked about him getting winded, but he's a space eater, and I mean, he's a damn strong dude, right? So I get what they're saying, but I think Michigan's just as good up front on offense as Georgia is on defense, right? Like, I think it's going to be a tough battle. Georgia's going to win theirs. Michigan's going to win theirs, right? They're going to get their share of plays each way. So I think for Michigan, one thing that they've done all year, especially Son Haskins, they don't give up losses, right? Like, they don't, like, I don't remember too many times where Michigan got a TFL, right? And if you can stay ahead of the chains, right? That's a cliche, but if you can stay ahead of the chains, if you can get, like, Hassan Haskins falling forward 3 yards is so, I just feel like underappreciated outside of Michigan's, fandom or fan base and the media, right? Because if you can fall forward, 2nd and 7 is way better than 2nd and 10, right? That opens up your playbook to be able to do a little bit more, right? And 3rd and 3 is a lot better than 3rd and 7, right? So I think Haskins' ability to fall forward he's done it his whole career against a bevy of opponents, right? Like, it's not just this. I mean, it's all the time, right? So, and Michigan's ability to move the pile, right, which is kind of a new rule. You think back to the Bush push, that was not allowed, but it happened. Now they don't call the play dead until the pile stops for like 2 seconds, so you can move that sucker. So Michigan's been very good at that as well. And I think those hidden yards are going to be extremely important to stay ahead of the chains. make it so Cade McNamara is not throwing on 3rd and 10, right? Because 3rd and 5 is a hell of a lot more manageable than 3rd and 10 is. So especially against a defense like Georgia, who's got some pass rushers who can get to the quarterback. So I haven't heard a lot about that as far as the matchup goes. I think part of the reason Michigan has been able to be so good offensively lately is their ability to avoid those plays that go for a loss over the last month of the season.
Well, the numbers bear that out. If you look, Michigan had the least amount of TFLs in the Power 5, and yet they ran the ball the 3rd most in football this year. Those are two things that are good combinations when you look at it. I think that the thing that sets up well, Georgia's a real physical team, but the mantra for Michigan going all the way back to spring, if you heard it a bunch of times, they talked about the energy, but you also talked about how they ramped up. They were not going to be this was going to be a physical team. They were just preaching. I know all coaches, they talk about this toughness and physicality, but that's what it takes to run the ball. And I thought that was a lot of cliche talk from Gaddis when I heard him before the season saying, hey, what's going to be different this year? And he talked about, well, we're going to run the football. I was like, oh, okay. I've heard that enough, but that's what they did. And from that standpoint, going up against this Georgia team, I don't think they're going to be any shrinking violets. I think they're going to come out and test and see if they can move it. You know what? And neither Hassan Haskins or Blake Corum in that Wisconsin game had over 50 yards. They ran it a lot. And what it did is that I remember the first drive, they went for it from their own 34 on a 4th and a foot. And then on that same drive, they went for it a 4th and 1. Now they didn't make that one, but they were banging away against that defensive line, and it set up the flea flicker to Cornelius Johnson, which I think unlocked a lot of things. It certainly did for me watching it, thinking, this is going to be a tight game. And then, boom, they pulled the top off, and it seemed like that unlocked a lot of things for them. And I think that's going to be the style we're going to see on Friday. I think Michigan's going to go in there and say, all right, let's see about, who's tough. If that's what got you here, and you've got this line, this decorated offensive line now, and let's see, let's man up now. If things after the first quarter they're just going to completely shut down and everything, that's when they might have to start mixing things up. You know what, Brandon, you said it earlier when they were running the ball, but they were doing all these things, and I think almost everybody at once said, "Wow, they're throwing the kitchen sink out there. Gaddis is just pulling all the right string." And so I don't know, the feel of as much as anything else, you sit around there, and it's a feel of when you put that play call in. And Gaddis has got the feel right now, and that's why I feel pretty good about when Michigan's on offense. And talking about McDonald, since that Michigan State game, I think he's learned a lot of things. They're pulling the right strings, and they've got a good feel for what they're doing in a good plan. These coordinators, I like that part for Michigan going into this game too.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's just clicking on all cylinders going into this game. It's no secret, and they're arguably the hottest team in the country. And Georgia has that edge where they're coming off their first loss, and maybe a little humble pie is good before a game like this. That's kind of been the angle everyone's taking, is Georgia off a loss is so dangerous. They would have been easier if they were undefeated, yada, 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 which I understand. I get that side of things. I think they're just coming up with reasons to pick Georgia at that point. It's okay if you just think they're going to win. We don't have to make up the situational things. I think losing that game and then getting a month to prepare, it's a long time in between. If they were playing pissed off, 6 days later, sure. But there's been a lot of time between point A and B, so I don't find that as too relevant of a point. But I do think that Michigan has a different kind of approach going into this game where they are feared, really. I mean, they've proven to be what they've become this year, right? And all the things that they've been saying they were going to be since they've gotten Harbaugh, or maybe not them, but just the hype around them and all of that they've proven to be those things. And when Josh Gaddis came in and said he was going to do all these things offensively originally, and then on top of what you mentioned, Dennis, with how they were going to run the ball this year, you mix those two things together. They're doing those things. Defensively, they bring in a guy with young energy who they thought was going to be a great in-game guy, an on-field guy, and he's doing exactly all of those things. The special teams unit being one of the best in the country year in and year out, they're still doing that, right? So you're thinking about how Michigan is clicking and all. The only thing negative about Michigan right now is Dax Hill. They absolutely ran through Iowa. They absolutely ran through Ohio State. They absolutely ran through Maryland. They beat Penn State in a whiteout on the road, or stripe, whatever it was. The only hiccup they've had is Michigan State, and it's no secret how much better they've gotten since that game. So you can pretty much forget about it. It's not the same team, right? So Michigan is, like you've said, the staff and its play calls, the team and its execution, the players and the chemistry, the pass rush, Vincent Gray, the amount of lengths he's taken this year. Everyone is clicking on all cylinders right now going into this game for Michigan. Michigan playing the way it's played the last 4 weeks season, hardly anyone is going to beat them. Georgia is a team that could, right? So that's kind of the mix of it. But hey, that's why you're in the playoffs. I mean, at the end of the day, like we said in the very beginning of the show today, we're not used to this whole thing. We're not used to covering a playoff. It's a different kind of analysis when players aren't sitting out, and it's super meaningful, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be, man, I keep getting to this point. It's just going to be really good. Like me personally, just excited to watch a good football game because I think these two teams match up like Titan and Titan personally.
Yeah, I could talk about this game for the next 50 some odd hours until kickoff. I want to take a pause just for a second and go over a few other things and then circle back and get some last thoughts on this matchup from you guys. But there's a couple other things just to hit. They can be quick hitters. You can take as long as you want. I don't care. I'm under no time constraint, so it's up to you guys. Michigan got great news this week. Aluskan Olawatimi comes in from Virginia, and this guy's an All-American. He started 32 games. I'm looking at some of the advanced numbers on him. Second highest run blocking grade with centers, allowed just 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits. I mean, this is a monster pickup for Michigan here. It is a little bit under the radar because Michigan's just getting ready to play for a championship, and yet here they're bringing in somebody. Usually when we talk about the transfer portal, it's got like a negative connotation to it. It's like, but the Michigan, it seems like they hit the jackpot here. I know both of you guys probably have a thought on Olawatimi.
Yeah, you're a pro's pro, Dennis. I mean, unbelievable pronunciation there. So that's why they paid the big bucks. But no, I mean, All-American, Remington finalist. Andrew Vistardis is a stud. This dude's, completely different level, right? I mean, like probably a day 2 pick, and that's typically as a center. I know Cesar Ruiz went as a first rounder, but typically centers are not getting drafted the first couple of days of the draft. So that's this kind of talent I think Michigan just got. And you're right, Dennis, Michigan's playing for a national title, but as college football fans, you get the wheels turning and you're like, all right, this dude's a sophomore now, had a great freshman year. Who's coming in? You got some explosive athletes, right? You start thinking about the future. So it's hard not to think about because I thought, look, when you brought back Harbaugh, my thinking was, okay, it's going to take a year to get adjusted to all the new coaches. You're going to have a lot of talent coming back in 2022. 2022 is going to be the best chance that Harbaugh's going to have, kind of like post 2018, right? And then this year happens, and it doesn't make sense. And they come together and they play out of their minds, and all the position groups that there were question marks on, like defensive tackle and linebackers, right, and quarterback, all play exceptional, right? So you have this weird year where Michigan just is like, screw the schedule, we're ahead of it. But it is hard not to think about next year with all the young talent. And I've talked about this when we've talked about kind of the recruiting aspect of it. I think Michigan is getting back to, or Harbaugh at least, is getting back to his days at Stanford, right, where they were not recruiting the best classes as far as stars go, but they were getting a good mix of talent to character to culture, right? And I think you're seeing that with Michigan over the last couple of years, right? You're not getting the 2016 and 2017 class who have multiple 5 stars, who have multiple top 10 players in it, right? But you are getting a great mix of good talent, good depth. And I think next year is going to be Michigan is going to be top 5 in the preseason probably. And with Olawatimi, dude's a stud, right? And the offensive line, Stuber's probably gone, but everyone else is probably back, right? I think Henschke has talked about Hayes leaning towards coming back, right? And Zinter's only a sophomore, and Keegan he's technically a redshirt freshman because of COVID. So you've got a lot of young guys on that offensive line who I think is the best offensive line in the country. You add Olawatimi, who's a Remington finalist. Dude, this team next year, it's a good time to be a Michigan fan, right? Michigan fans have gone through the ringer, and now to start to see it come to fruition is like, holy cow, is this what it feels like? So this team next year, with Corum, Edwards, it's this offensive line, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So it's a great addition for Michigan. It's a 5-star get to me.
Yeah, I think that the big thing here too, I agree in all fronts there, Tanner. But another thing that I've heard from inside the program is that, with Vistardis, how good he was this year had a lot to do with how good his leadership was. He really took this offensive line and ran with it, like really stepped up as the leader of it and the clear leader of it too. And that was expected. Vistardis, a guy who we've mentioned as a walk-on at one point, he's a guy who the staff, everyone around the staff, everyone around the program inside Schembechler knew Vistardis was going to have a year like he had, just because they knew his character, and just because the approach he came in every day for these past 5 years, however long he's been there, has been consistent. And what he's done this year and who he has been to this team, more importantly, was completely unsurprising. Now, here comes Oluwatimi. I think I got that right. Here's a kid who, like we said, Remington finalist, all those grades, yada, yada, yada. Another huge leader on his offensive line, though. And you need that, especially at that position. And I think that bringing him in to replace Vistardis, yes, on paper he is better. Yes, on film he is better. Yes, in the draft he is better. He's a better player overall than Vistardis, by all means. Will he be the same leader as Vistardis? I think you're going to be all right if he's a little bit less or a little bit more, whatever. It's give or take. But I think that based on watching what he's done, what he did at Virginia, and how well he led them, I think that you have to talk about that as a huge factor too, because the offensive line, with everyone coming back, all of a sudden you enter this little nucleus in Oluwatimi. I'm just saying, that offensive line might be like damn near just as good next year as it is this year.
I think it'll be better. Yeah, I think it'll be better.
Right.
I mean, you're right, though. With the center, you've got to have that leadership ability to be able to direct guys where to go. And this spring is going to be huge for him, too, to be able to earn the respect of those guys in that room.
Not to mention Sharon Moore's pretty good at his job. So you'd have to think that there's going to be some improvement on those returners rather than regression.
Throwback, I broke that news back in the day.
You sure
remember
did.
that? Yeah, I didn't get credited for some people, but we broke that. I had a really impeccable source who I don't know. I don't think I can share it 4 years later still, but yeah, we broke me and Brandon broke that back in the day. So
Jerome Moore to the offensive line coach that you're talking about?
Or no, to when he came to Michigan as a tight ends coach. I had a really good source on that. And I was able to break that first and got credited by The Athletic and
no big deal.
Yeah, but didn't get credited by certain outlets. It's fine.
I'll credit you right now, man.
Thank you.
It's not
only piece of news I ever broke, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, you know what? It's great to have a scoop, but it's great when that scoop, turns out to be gold too, like Sharon Moore, man. There's a lot of coaches on this team that you could see making it as coordinators and head coach, and Sharon Moore is one of those guys. You listen to him talk for a minute, you're like, this guy's a head coach, just the way he captivates the room. While you guys are here, I want a thought or two on recruiting. What the Orange Bowl, being in South Florida, which is, I tell you guys, a hotbed. How much is the visibility there going to help Michigan? They're already off to a really good start. Brandon, I'll start with you. I saw that, Michigan offered a running back out of Dallas, Texas, Andrew Paul. I mean, things are going pretty well on the recruiting front as well, which has been part of the success that they've had on the field.
Well, I'll start with continually going back to Michigan doing what it is kind of set out to do and what it said it was going to do. And like I said, maybe not what it said, but what the hype has surrounded it to say. But they've said championship since Harbaugh's been here. So I'm just going to say they said it too. They're doing those things now, right? So when they're in recruiting rooms, they're no longer selling this hope. They're no longer selling this future thing. They're no longer looking at kids saying, you're the one that's going to get us there. They're looking at kids and saying, you're the one that's going to keep this going. Right. And it's something that is an edge that is it cannot be reproduced by another team unless they've done that. They've had that success. Playoff teams can say that. All those other teams can't. There's no way to replicate it. There's no other way to replicate what they're doing right now other than getting there. Right. You can't sit here and compete. You can compete with playoff teams on the recruiting trail, but the entire strategy and approach it's different. It's completely different when you have not been to a playoff and you've been continually shut out of conference championships. Your whole strategy changes. Now you can recruit with that success on your back. Now maybe you'll have a little bit of a target too, but either way, it's something that they haven't had before, they have now. And it's an unarguable advantage in recruiting to win. It's an unarguable advantage, especially at the national level. It's not like they're a group of 5 team like Cincinnati who's seeing a nice little recruiting spike because of their success and then also joining the Big 12. But it is similar. So I'll start with that. As far as Andrew Paul goes, I love the kid's film. I posted about it on the Den last night. It's really fascinating. He is a change of pace kid who's patient and has that running style that you see in the backs this year for Michigan. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but I think after I don't know if it was the Western, it had to have been the Western game. After the Western Michigan game, you could see it was clear how different Blake Corum was running. He was not just getting the ball and running straight to the hole. He was patient. He was seeing things. He was carving out where he was going next. He wasn't making his move and then figuring out what his next one was. He was figuring out his next one after he made his last one. It just seemed like he was far more patient. And we kind of compared their running style to their coach, Mike Hart, right? And that's obvious when he's their coach, and you expect that. And I think that Paul has that mold. He has that ability, and he shows the style that Corum runs with on film. Not quite as fast, but extremely elusive, exceptional vision, like advanced vision for his age. He's playing in Texas, so even lower football in Texas it's going to play at the next level quite well. 5'11", and I think the size isn't like bowling ball by any means. I think he's built sort of like Blake Corum, but I just want to remind everyone, Blake Corum's 5'8". So I think this kid, you sacrifice a little bit of the speed, but you gain a little bit of the height and power there. And I think that he's a nice hybrid mix. I'm not sitting here saying he's Hassan and Corum mixed together. I'm just saying he's like somewhere in between those two as far as his style goes. And Michigan made this move because they lost out on Trianum, who ended up going to Ohio State to play linebacker. So losing out on that transfer running back led them to going after him. Now, earlier in the cycle, Michigan went after Justin Williams. It was a little late. It was late in the cycle, but I mean, before signing day, Michigan in around, I think, October was going after Justin Williams, who at the time was committed to West Virginia. And that kid blew up and then ended up committing to Auburn or Tennessee, one of the two. I can't remember. Either way, they lose out on Williams. And then when they lost out on Williams, at that point, it was kind of like, okay, we're just going to wait and see on running back. Well, Trianum comes along in the transfer portal. Everyone, including them, seems to believe they're going to land him until that final hour. And then now they have to shift everything around, and, a la here comes Paul. So that's where the Paul offer came in. And like I said, like the film, I think he's a kid Michigan prioritizes going into signing day along with Connerly. He's nowhere near as important as Connerly, but I do think he is a nice complement to CJ Stokes, and I think that's a nice running back class. You're not getting this super lofty expectation running back class. Hardly do you see those as much anymore anyway. But I do think that those two are going to fit well. If Paul ends up at Michigan, I think those two would fit well in Ann Arbor. I think it would be a nice addition to the running back room. And on top of that, remind you, Hassan Haskins, bottom of the 2018 class.
Done
what he's done now, right? So, yeah. Pass it.
Yeah, no, I think, Dennis, you mentioned Miami. Shout out to Will Smith. Love that song. But I think about, we've been spending so much time on 2022 and we still have another signing period. I haven't, adjusted my focus to 2023 as much. So I'm not as familiar with a lot of the prospects yet. But I just think about a kid like Jalen Brown out of Miami, who we have number 66 in the country, number 10 wide receiver in the country, who has a, pretty well-known connection to Desmond Howard, right? And I don't know, right now, obviously with COVID, there's nothing probably going on there, but maybe in years past, you have a kid swing by and check out practice, right? But I just have to think there's probably some communication with him, and I don't know how much of a player Michigan still is at this point. Although as I'm looking on the Rivals page, there is an article about him related to the Rutgers 2023 recruiting class. So be interesting to see how the Scarlet Knights do in this one. But I just have to think like you've seen them in 2023 already, right? Raylan Wilson, who's a bit, more of a North Florida kid, but you got to think playing in the Orange Bowl, all the publicity, right? All of the advertisements for the college football playoff, it's all recruiting and it's all great publicity for Michigan and obviously the other three schools. But I just feel like Michigan's going to be able to go in there, like Brandon said, you're going to be able to go into the state of Florida, the state of Texas, the state of California, and have more success than you have in the past because you're not selling hope. You're selling results, right? And I know Michigan State fans, I think, use that exact line about D'Antonio versus Harbaugh before Harbaugh ever coached a game, which is kind of funny. But I think you're able to go in there with multiple championship rings. I mean, if they win on Friday, they get a ring for winning the Orange Bowl, right? Like they don't. It's not just a semifinal. Like it is an actual bowl game that they could put on their mantle. So I think the continued success. Whatever happens beyond this year, it's all gravy because Michigan's now at the point where they can say, hey, guess what? We can do this too. We can go to the college football playoff and we can compete with the big boys and we can smoke them. In the case of Ohio State, who before that game, everyone has said Ohio State, Georgia were the clear-cut number 1 and 2. So I think Michigan's going to have a lot more success, obviously, in 2023, as we've alluded to with this newfound Big Ten championship season. So I'm very curious to see how Michigan plays off of it. But I think I have to imagine this recruiting class is going to see a significant bump.
Awesome. So I've got 2 more things for you. One, just listening to you talk about the Orange Bowl. They win on Friday. Like this is such an opportunity. I can remember 97 and going back and people say, hey, enjoy this because it might not happen. It hadn't happened for 50 years. It might be another 50 years. And I was thinking, you know what, maybe they knew what they were talking about. But, not having to share, going into where, the NIL didn't affect this. These are under the old rules, getting in there against all the old, preconceptions of SEC and speed and talent and recruiting and cheating and all of these things. Michigan goes in and wins this game on Friday, and then comes over the top. No offense to your fiance, and then beats Alabama. I mean, this thing, it is such a dream. It almost seems like, you can't even believe it. And yet here they are, just 2 games away. 1 on Friday. Those are kind of my final thoughts. Leave it for you guys to think before I get to the memorabilia piece. But let's start with you, Brandon. What an opportunity here to do something uncharted territory and everything else. Well, what a crowning achievement this would be. And it starts on Friday if they were able to get this victory.
Yeah, hey, at the end of the day, I think Tanner made a good point in saying that win or lose, they've done something they haven't done before, and they've proven a point, and I think that's true. But I think this has been a team that has time and time again shown us that they are hungrier for the next thing than they are for the thing before it. After that Ohio State game, how many times did we hear letdown spot, letdown spot, letdown spot? Michigan's in a letdown spot. Michigan's in a letdown spot. And then time and time again, sorry, I had a little glitch in my screen there. Time and time again, they've proven to be to overcome those things, right? They go into Iowa, or they go into Indianapolis and absolutely roll over Iowa, 42-3, not even close, right? So I think that again, Michigan is determined to prove people wrong. Cade McNamara is the spokesperson of the doubted. I think that's a good way to call this team. They are the doubted. They have been in each week of a big game. Even against Iowa, despite being heavily chosen to win that game, they were heavily chosen to not cover that spread based on the letdown spot, and they did it. So Georgia, a tremendous foe, a silhouette bigger than any, right? You're walking down the hallway and you just see them at the corner peeking out, and it's this giant mammoth that is Georgia, and that defense especially. And I think what you have in front of you is a chance to deliver on years of just disappointment, of like almost being there. I think Michigan's arrived, and I think that they've shown that, win or lose this game. But I think the opportunity you have here, and the point you make here, Dennis, is that Michigan has a chance to really flip everything on its head here. And what a world we live in, where now people are ringing the tune that how happy would Jim Harbaugh be if they win this game? What his expression would be on his face? Because you watch that sideline after Ohio State, and you especially watch that sideline after Iowa too, and you saw just pure bliss, man. And like that guy just loves this program and his team, and it's good to see in a world of like slimy coaching all over in every sport. It's a very lucrative scene, more than it is a coaching scene nowadays. And I think Harbaugh, donating back that salary and taking the pay cut, et cetera, has proven to be a little bit more of a genuine space here. And I think Kirby Smart is too. Truly, I do. So I think it's going to be, again, at the end of the day, I said this earlier, I think this is a battle of titans. I think these are 2 extremely close match teams. I think this game has a chance to be, I know Alabama is really the heavy pick here, and I don't blame it for that, but I wouldn't be shocked. I'll say this. I wouldn't be shocked if we look back at this game in about a month and say that was the national championship.
I love it. I also have to get this last question in. Antoine, I think I missed a few of his questions. He was getting on me. So I'll put this one out there. Maybe, Tanner, you can answer this one, and I'll read it for people that are just listening on the podcast. But, speaking of podcasts, I listened to Harbaugh on the signing day special. I kept picturing him in just this lounge jacket sitting back, I mean, he was so relaxed talking about the recruits and in such a good mood, to your point there. I don't know how much more of a good mood he could get in, but I'm ready to see what that would be all about. All right. Antoine says, ask your guests if Michigan can get an edge in offensive and defensive line recruiting. This is an edge that possibly could dominate Ohio State since the league is going away from big boy football. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think they have, right? I think you look at the classes and the hit rate, right? I mean, Chris Jenkins was a true freshman, and he's only playing about 240, 250. I mean, his dad, I don't know if anybody remembers Chris Jenkins for the Panthers. His dad was a big dude. I mean, and so I'm curious to see how that frame able to add some weight on it. Think about a guy like Jalen Harrell, more so kind of an edge guy, right? But look at what they did. When did they get in the Derek Moore recruitment? A month? I can't, was it right when Lincoln Riley left for USC? I mean, they got in there and they won that thing, right? So we'll see. It's very early in 2023 still, but I do think Michigan, and all you got to do is just show the tape. I mean, obviously you got to build the relationships and all that fun stuff that does come with recruiting and all the courting, but I don't see why they can't, right, to be able to go to any defensive lineman in the country, especially the edge position, but even the defensive tackles. I mean, Donovan Jeter played huge in that Ohio State game. Mozzie Smith has turned into a freaking beast, like his recruiting rankings indicated he would be. And Chris Hinton has been just kind of that solid, steady. He's gonna eat blocks. He's not gonna make a ton of plays, but he's not gonna get blown off the ball, right? And you kind of need that in that 3-4 scheme that Michigan runs. So I absolutely think they can, and I think they're gonna have a lot of success. And obviously on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, you just got to show them that just show them 5 Hassan Haskins touchdowns and say, where do you want to go, right? So I think they absolutely can get a leg up on the offensive and defensive line and really start to build out from the trenches, because that's what this team is, right? They're built from the inside out, and that's how you win championships.
Tanner, is there something top of mind or a last coming over the top here as you think about the Orange Bowl on Friday?
Just get to the game, man. Just get to the game. I'm, always checking my phone, and I'm praying I don't see anything. I should just throw that thing in the trash. But I got
put that thing under the.
I know. I have 2 phones. I have a work phone, so I'm like, it sucks. I'm like, I just want to throw this thing at the wall. But no, just get to the game. Just get there healthy. That's really all I care about. And I don't. Do you want a prediction? Because I'll give you one. I don't know how accurate it'll be, but I can throw one out there. Are we gonna save that for Friday? What are we doing?
I want it. My prediction's 24-20 Michigan. That's my official prediction. You can give a score if you want, or you can just pick who you think's going to win. But I like Michigan on the money line. In fact, I like Michigan -3.5. So there you go.
Man, I'll give you a prediction with the score. I'm obviously picking Michigan. I mean, look, dude. I mean, I'm trying to be impartial and unbiased, but what do you want from me? I grew up in the state. Gosh, man, I'm gonna go Michigan. I think it's gonna be a little bit higher scoring. I'm gonna go 31-27 Michigan.
So that's the over. The over and under, I think, is 45. So I like the under. And
okay. Life's too short to bet the under, Dennis.
Do you want to wait, Brandon, or do you got a score in mind? I know you're always stuck into that edge, and you guys all get in right in the last minute because you have to see all of, and then you'll put your for those of you that see the crawl down there of the Maize and Blue Review and being able to sign up. Brandon's been on fire. He actually is. He's not scared to make a pick. He's making them left and right, and he's going to make more. And I got to tell you, was it last Sunday? It was the Bucks and Saints, and I looked at him like, you know what? I've been reading Sharpening the Edge. What's he saying about this Sunday night game? And he said, it's a dead under. I know, Tanner, you don't like those unders. I'm like, you know what? He thinks it's dead under. I'm going to play a dead under. That game, man, I'm thinking there was no score at the half. I'm already cashing my, ticket. I already felt pretty good about it. So
there's nothing
there, Brandon. So I understand if you want to wait because you're the pro.
There's nothing better than watching a system quarterback on a Sunday night not make a throw on either side of the ball. There's just nothing better. There's nothing better. Overs are great, but unders are just. It's like get a hot cocoa, fill it up with some marshmallows, kick your feet up, get your blanket going. I don't know. Maybe you throw in a drink or two. Who knows? Either way,
Bailey's Irish cream. You know,
either way, you bet the under. You sit back and you just root for no chaos at all. It's like a peaceful 2 hour, 3 hour movie. Not to mention, it's always the shortest game too. So keep that in mind as well. Now, as far as the game goes, Michigan versus Georgia, of course. I think that the spread, I want to see where it goes as far as making a pick against the spread. And like I said, like I tend to lean on signals when it comes to making picks on games, not even just making picks as far as the spread against the spread goes or picking totals or anything like that. Just in general, I like paying attention because it's a proven way to understand better what's going to happen, because more times than not, Vegas is pretty close or they're either in the money or close to it. So it's an easy way to follow the system and see where things are going. As far as Michigan and Georgia goes, it's just been, like we said earlier, it's just been frozen. It hasn't had there's been pretty much a little no movement, which to me signals that there's going to be some movement one way or the other coming up here in the next couple of days. If it's a small amount of movement towards Georgia, I think that's bets coming in. I think that's public coming in, and I'm not one to believe in the public because I think that we're smarter than the public can be at times. And then on the other side of things, if it starts inching towards Michigan, I think that's a good sign for Michigan. If you see a big inflated like 10.5 Georgia by Friday, I think we're in for trouble. But we'll see. I honestly don't know which way that's going to go. And again, I just keep going back to this. This is the Battle of Titans. It's unpredictable. I have no idea what's going to happen, truly. Like, the Ohio State game, I was pretty convinced Michigan was going to lose that game, to be honest with you. And I was pretty dead set on that. In the Georgia game, I am pretty well locked in on Georgia winning from a prediction standpoint. I just don't know by how much or how little. Now, that all being said, I think Michigan is, like I said, this whole show, far more capable than they're being credited for, and they match up way better than anyone thinks. And so this seems like it's going to be like to me, this is like a 2.5 point spread, 3.5, 2.5, 3.5. If I'm taking anybody, if I'm making any bets right now, I am taking the alternate line of Michigan, and Acuna is always making his appearance if you hear me out. I am taking the alternate line of Michigan plus 4.5. Plus 4.5. You're still getting around plus 140 for that. So if you're betting $100, you're getting 140 back on top of your $100 that you bet. Okay. And I think that at those odds with that amount of points to play with, I think you're in a good spot, because I do think this game ends up in either like a 3 to 4 point game. I think, Dennis, you said 24-20, right? And I think that's right around where I am. And so I like that bet right now. That would be my favorite bet.
Well, you're very comfortable in your own skin. Right, and we know that. For those that aren't watching, he's wearing a Lions hat. All right, Tanner, I asked you to produce some kind of memorabilia here for the memorabilia.
I got two.
I know you flashed this amazing blue.
Well, that's just in my bookshelf back there. Okay. We just got this in the mail.
An orange glass?
No, it's a Big Ten championship glass. I was very, very intoxicated when I bought this, so it's kind of a nice little surprise. I knew I did it, but then I looked at my bank account and I was like, oh yeah, I spent $100 at the M-Den last night. Who knew? And then I was supposed to get a hoodie, but I haven't got that. So I know somebody that works at the M-Den, so I got to hit him up. And then I'm gonna give you guys a little throwback. I got to get this in a frame. This is Brady Hoke and I. His first year, I went
right up to the screen. Put that right up to the screen.
I got the blinds open, but that is Brady Hoke and I back in the day, 2011. Baby face, no facial hair. My hairline was still intact. So good times though.
Hey. That's a nice looking picture, and that'll look good up on the wall, Tanner.
Yeah, he's a very, very nice guy though. Talked to him for like 15, 20 seconds. Really cool. It was a lot of fun going to that camp. Got some good technique from Roy Manning. Did a lot with us when he was coaching DNs out. Yeah, and then talked to Aaron Wellman, who is the strength coach. I was asking him because I'm a nerd. I was like, "Yo, who lifts the most?" And he was like, "Mike Martin." Squats about 600, benches about 5 something, and I'm like, okay. So I wore 68 because Mike Martin was an absolute animal. So my little fun fact for you.
I like it. He still is. Well, that's great stuff, guys. We could as we've found out, we could sit here and do this all day and all night. But Brandon, great job. Tanner, you as well.
Thank you.
Play the game. We're excited. You get a 10-second final thought? All right.
I bought an NFT racehorse. That's my fun fact.
What's his name?
Thought. Chase the money, of course.
Chase the money. I thought it was going to be sharpening the edge.
Hey, I've got one last thing to say. I don't know how to pronounce it. Bienvenidos a Miami. So I'm gonna leave with that.
I love it.
Classic.
Thank you. We'll see you later.
Spanish, Haitian, Indian, Jamaican, Black,
Woo!
Cuban, and Asian. I only came for 2 days.